Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Youth for Truth. My name is Keonda Taylor, and this morning's lesson is Love Seeks Justice. We're going to learn about love and devotion to others and the story of David and Saul and how Jonathan defended David to his father Saul in order to save David's life. David was born in Bethlehem, and he was the youngest son of Jesse. God said that David was a man after his own heart, and David was also a poet, a musician, and a loyal servant of King Saul. And you may also know David's name from David and Goliath. Goliath was a giant Philistine warrior, and Philistines were people that lived along the coastal areas of Palestine, and that's an area near Israel. The five main Philistine cities were Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron. The Philistines and the Israelites constantly fought over land all the time. And even on certain occasions, God allowed the Philistines to be taken over, to take over the Israelites because of their disobedience towards him. And then this story begins right after David kills Goliath with a slingshot and a stone. I'm going to read 1 Samuel 19, 1 through 7. Saul told his son Jonathan and all the attendants to kill David. But Jonathan had taken a great liking to David and warned him, "My father Saul is looking for a chance to kill you. Be on your guard tomorrow morning, go into hiding and stay there. I will go out and stand with my father in the field where you are. I'll speak to him about you, and I'll tell you what I find out." Jonathan spoke well of David to his father Saul and said to him, "Let not the king do wrong to his servant David, for he has not wronged you. And what he has done has benefited you greatly. He took his life in his hands when he killed the Philistine. The Lord won a great victory for all of Israel. You saw it and were glad. Why then would you do wrong to an innocent man like David by killing him for no reason?" Saul listened to Jonathan and took his oath. "As surely as the Lord lives, David will not be put to death." So Jonathan called David and told him the whole conversation, and he brought him to Saul, and David was with Saul as before. Now, as a young man, David began as a shepherd who tended to his father's flock of sheep and spent a lot of time alone and in fellowship with God. Because of his experience growing up protecting sheep, God uses that to make him into a warrior later on in his life. Doing so to show that sometimes we may go through things in life, we may feel stuck or be doing certain things that we don't want to be at in the moment. But that means God is preparing us in the place that we are and raising us up and preparing us for greater tasks that we don't even understand yet. So David keeps faith, and eventually he becomes one of the greatest warriors in the land. And David was always underestimated by his peers, his family members, and everyone around him. They even thought his brothers would be greater than him, become king. And basically, instead of Saul being happy for him when he defeats Goliath, his jealous spirit sets out to kill David. There is no reason to be jealous of others, and it's okay to see others win around you, especially in this story when the victories of David benefited Saul and the people of Israel. And it goes to show that you never know who will be able to help you, and we always have to treat each other fairly in the way that we want to be treated, and just know and have faith in God that our time is coming. So the definition of justice, just behavior or treatment, and also the administration of the law or authority in maintaining this. And other words for justice may be fairness or equity. And a lot of times when we hear the word justice today or injustice, we think of cases such as Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Philando Castile, Tamir Rice, and many others. So, justice means that someone is always concerned with being right or being fair or doing what's morally right and what's morally fair. And God always acts with justice. Such as in the story of Joseph, he was sold into slavery by his brothers, and because he told dreams and people didn't want to believe, the things going on in his dreams. And instead of his brothers believing him and having faith in him and having faith in God, they sell him into slavery. And eventually, God gets justice by raising Joseph up to be a king in the land of Egypt, and they need him later on. Jonathan seeks justice when he stands up to his father to protect his friend David. And Jonathan and David become friends through his service to King Saul. And when Saul becomes jealous of David, he sends his soldiers and his son Jonathan to attack him. But instead of Jonathan doing what his father asked him to do, he stops and he questions it. And sometimes we have to use our morals to show us what's wrong and what's right, even when someone like your parents may be telling you to do something wrong. We must use our own good judgment and then stand up for what is right. So there's an acronym for stand up. S is study those leaders who stood up for justice in this world. T is tell others when they're being unfair. A is accept that people are human and won't always make the right decisions. N is never be afraid to have different opinions than others. D is determine that your opinion is important. U is understand that everyone won't agree with you. And P is pray about ways to address conflict in your relationships. And Jonathan confronts his father about how he was unjustly treating David. Jonathan respectfully shared his plot to kill him and that he was sinning against David. And basically, the encounter could have resulted in death for David. And he valued what was right more than his relationship with his father. Jonathan didn't confront his father in front of a group of people. He took him to the side. He didn't accuse him of being a bad person. He just knew that he needed some direction from God and through his relationship with Jonathan. So Jonathan just simply shares his thoughts on why he thinks his father was wrong, and Saul was able to accept Jonathan's correction, and then Jonathan is able to set an example for his father. Now, when David eventually becomes king in Saul's place, God plans this change in Israel's leadership ahead of time. And he changed leadership when Saul didn't obey his instructions to destroy everything in Amalek. And because Jonathan stood up for David when he needed it, he took care of him, took care of Jonathan and his son. And the lesson is that is when we stand for justice, God always takes care of us. Now in Exodus, there is the 10 commandments. And I'm just going to read 3 that I feel relates to this story. Thou shalt not murder. And that is when Jonathan talks to his father and he talks him out of murdering David because it wasn't something he should do. And you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Jonathan speaks highly of David. He told the truth. And he also brought up reasons why what David did benefited him and helped him to see the light in what he did and not see the jealousy of the victories and the people praising him and stuff like that. And thou shalt not covet. And Saul's reason for wanting to kill David is because he felt David was stealing his shine, and he didn't like that David was being praised more than him. And the 10 Commandments basically give us direction on how to live a better life and please God. And we can use this to influence others around us all the time. And in our society today, when a person is guilty of committing a crime, they normally have to pay a penalty, like going to jail and waiting their time to come out. But God says the wage of sin is death. And back in the Old Testament, God decides that animals could be used to pay the price of sins. So we'll use as sacrifices. And by the deaths of these animals, the people would be set free from those sins until they sinned again. But it was only a temporary situation. Now, God eventually creates a better plan. He loved us so much that he sends his only son to earth to save us forever, that we would never have to make another sacrifice again. And God did that to prove that in his own time, he's fair and he always does what's right. And he creates his own justice for all of those that believe in him. And God always does what's morally right and fair. He desires that we hold up justice in our own lives as well, and that we use the Bible to guide us and live in his way. But we must first decide for ourselves that that's something we want to do, and that even though we may have free will to do what we want, there's always a plan for us, and God is always directing us in his path. Now I'm going to read Love Seeks Justice. Alexis and Anna had been friends since the first grade. They played together during recess, helped each other with homework, and participated on the community track team. Running track was an important part of their lives. In fact, they were both thinking of joining their high school track team. Anna received awards for running the fastest 100-meter competitions. Everyone would cheer her on, and they knew she was a good runner. One day at track practice, Melissa, a transferred student, joined the team. Melissa was a great runner. She even broke Anna's time in the 100-meter race. Everyone was excited about her joining the team except for Anna. When Melissa started getting more attention, Anna started talking about her appearance and hurting Melissa's feelings. Alexis was really disappointed with Anna, and she told her to stop mistreating Melissa, and Anna was very upset. She felt like Alexis was taking Melissa's side, and they even stopped talking for a couple of weeks. Eventually, Anna realizes how immature she had been acting and stopped being mean to Melissa. She thanked Alexis for telling her truth, and their friendship became stronger. And you notice that Anna becomes upset when Alexis confronts her. A lot of times when our friends are going through things, they always want us to take their side, whether they're right or wrong. But a real friend will call you out and let you know what you're doing is wrong. And the end of the story states that their friendship actually becomes stronger in the end because Alexis helped her friend to do better. She helped her to see what she was doing. And in my opinion, she's a great friend because Anna helped her become a better person, whether she wanted to or not. And she helped her to make a change for her future, herself, and those around her. And if you can, think to a time when someone confronted you for being unfair, or if you haven't been confronted, just, be honest with yourself and reflect on a time when you probably could have handled a situation differently. As Christians, no matter the relationship, we can't be silent when someone is doing something wrong because it affects everyone. We can disagree respectfully, and we can take ways if we be mature about it and come to a peaceful resolution. And if we can't find a resolution, then you can pray for those that God touches their heart, and that if they're willing to sabotage a friendship over a small disagreement. And correction it's never easy, but it can always be orderly and respectful and not judgmental or self-righteous. Processes you can do to help get, justice in your situations or finding resolutions. Ways to finding a resolution it can be orderly and respectful, and if you're not judgmental and you hear what the other person has to say. The process can be, you can have a meeting with the person. You can use a mediator, like someone to help you guys work out your points of view and see each other's, points of views, because sometimes it's hard to see someone else's point of view when you're angry or when someone else is upset, and that mediator can help you deal with your hurt feelings and misunderstood words. And you have to seek to understand each other's perspective. And even though you can't change the past, you can always learn from your mistakes and change for future interactions. And the foundation for every relationship should be love for God and for each other. And that will help guide you as well. Alexis and Jonathan used their voice and not their hands or weapons to stand up for justice. And you can also use your voice to advocate or stand up for what is right. Use your past experiences to change how you handle your current or future situations. And you can always be prayerful and mindful about how you go about handling them as well. And remember, it doesn't matter your personality, your race, where you live, what you wear, or how young or old you are. God can use you to stand for justice.
We will fight, and we will win. And we will win.
Lord, thank you for another day. Continue to protect and guide us and allow us to stay in and follow your word to direct our path each and every day. Lord, we pray for the forgiveness of sins and that we may seek you to invoke justice in our lives. Bless the young people listening so that they may seek you first when they face problems, and that they may know that with you all things are possible through Christ. Lord, bless everyone that has been affected by this pandemic and heal those who are sick, and that they may be covered in your name. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Good morning, class. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. I hope you all have had a great weekend and looking forward to a great week in school. This week, the activity we're going to do is going to consist again of talking about love. We talked about love and we created a love mobile, but today we are going to create a love wagon. We're going to review a little bit on what we discussed when we created our love mobile the last time. And we talked about what love was and what love was not. And we had a list of things that what love was and what love was not. And we had hearts, smaller hearts that we used the last time. But this time we're using bigger hearts to show how we can love one another, or the things we should say to show others that we do love them. And we're going to use the same material that we use for our love mobile, which is the construction paper, tape, and scissors and stencils. We won't need string this time because a wagon doesn't need a string. But we're going to stay consistent and create the hearts. Hearts demonstrates love, and God is love. He loves each and every one of us. So I have standing beside me is our love wagon. On our love wagon, we have 3 hearts. And our 3 hearts that we have here are going to tell us how we can show others that we love them. Our first heart saying, being kind to them. Kind is a great word, and it's a word that we also used in our last activity because it demonstrated what love was. So the second heart that we have showing how we can show others that we love them is listening to them, which that is another way that others know that we love them, by listening to what they have to share with us. The last part we have that lets us know what love means, or how we can show others that we love them, is respecting them. We have to respect one another. And so by doing these three things, we are showing others that we love them, as well as we are demonstrating it to God that we love each other. So I hope you get a chance this week to be creative and create your love wagon. It may look like this wagon I have here on the wall, or you may have some other ideas of how you would like to create your love wagon. But whatever you do, have fun doing it, and remember to share your love with friends, family, and most of all, just remind the Lord how much you truly do love Him. That's going to conclude our activity for this week. Have a great week at school, learning and helping each other, studying, and remember that you can do all things through Christ. Ask God to help you, and you will be able to succeed and do well in all of your subjects. Have a great week, and I look forward to the next time when we do our activity. Bye-bye.